Hey everyone, OP Analysis here. At the end of chapter 1052, the new bounties were teased along with the reveals of who the new emperors would be. The other day, I shared my bounty predictions on Twitter, go follow me, and today I'll be sharing my current predictions and explaining them, as well as guessing as to who the next emperors are. I want to preface this by saying that I have already heard about the speculated spoilers, not enough to know any amounts or verify the truth, but enough to think that some of my predictions are probably wrong. But I really thought them out, and so I wanted to share them anyways. Starting at the lowest amount, we have Chopper, who I originally had him at 200 berries, but after some thought, I think 500 berries would be better. It's a substantial increase concerning what it was before, but obviously, it's still within the joke territory. I think if Chopper were to ever get an actual bounty, now would be the time. I could honestly see it happening, though I still think it's probably unlikely. And given that, yeah, 500 berries, I think that's what we're gonna get. But next up is Brook, who really hasn't done much in Wano, unfortunately. I do still think that his general combat feats will give him a substantial increase in bounty. I'm thinking 330 million berries. My reasoning being is that it is 10 times his original bounty, and while not the highest, I think it's more than enough given his lack of feats in the arc overall. It also feels very substantial. Other people with bounties around that spot include Oven, Daifuku, and Pedro, all people who are considered strong, even by Yonko Crew standards, but at the same time, you can tell that they aren't anywhere close to the top, which is how I feel Brook fits into the Straw Hat Crew within, like, combat-wise, like, within the combat sense. Moving along, we have Nami, and my prediction for her bounty is 450 million berries. The reason for this obviously being that she defeated Oti, who has a bounty of 400 million berries, and while I do not think that she really deserved that win, as far as the ward is concerned, she got it on her own, and given that she does have the Zeus upgrade right now, still to our knowledge, it's not exactly an incorrect reflection of how much of a threat she is. Closely following Nami, though, is Usopp, who has honestly just been disappointing this entire arc. He didn't get any meaningful battles, and he never showcased any use of his observation haki that he awakened during Dressrosa. Nonetheless, for the sake of the meme, I do honestly think that Usopp will have a bounty of 500 million berries. Who knows, him faking Conqueror's haki might play a part into that. Now back onto a more serious one, we have Frankie, who I think will probably have a bounty around 550 million berries. He obviously defeated Sasaki, who had a bounty of 472 million berries. After that, he remained active in the battles and probably wreaked havoc, and I think that makes him worthy of this bounty. Jinbei is next with a bounty prediction of a whopping 750 million berries. During Wano, he defeated Who's Who fairly easily. Who's Who had a bounty of 546 million berries for reference, and then he went on to play an important role in putting out the fires on Onigashima. On top of that, we know that Jinbei has had some fairly impressive feats against Big Mom, and I think Oda will reward that with a substantial bounty increase. This would put him in the range of Perospero, who I think Jinbei is relative to, and maybe even stronger than, in a general sense at least. Following Jinbei, we have Robin, who although her opponent Black Maria only had a bounty of 480 million berries, I think that her threat to the world government is great enough to warrant a bounty of 800 million. Especially with Luffy's awakening, defeat of Kaido, and general closing in on the position of Pirate King, I think the danger of Robin's existence has only been increasing, thus justifying this amount. Now, Killer is a very tough one to place. While he did participate in the rooftop battle, he was the only one who didn't do anything of note. Everyone else has some sort of special or impressive feat and or moment during or after the battle. For Luffy, that's his whole fight against Kaido. For Zoro, that's him scarring Kaido, Kid-in-Law against Big Mom. Killer didn't. He got a few attacks in on Kaido like everyone else did, and then he went on to fight against Hawkins, who only has a bounty of 320 million berries. While he was definitely handicapped in the fight, I think his overall lack of feats in comparison to everyone else will definitely lead to him being a bit overlooked by the world. I think his bounty could be anywhere from 900 million to 1 billion berries. I gave him a range instead of a solid number because I can't decide if he's going to be overlooked enough to be under a billion or not. If he isn't under a billion, I think he would just be that, a billion berries. I don't think his bounty would be any lower than 900 million berries though. Another hard one to place is Yamato. Seeing as how it seems pretty set in stone that they're going to be joining the crew, I figured I should probably add them. The hard part about placing Yamato is we don't know how much of their feats will actually get put out there, how much will be known to the world. But if I'm going off feats, I would safely put them in the billion berries range. Honestly, it could be anything within the range of 1 to 1.5 billion berries, in my opinion. I think that Sanji's bounty will be higher, but Yamato, in my opinion, honestly has better feats. However, I don't think their feats are as good as Zoro's. Though, moving on to Sanji, I think his bounty will be in the range of 1.7 to 1.99 billion berries. Now, I have a reason for this, so let me break it down real quick. If we look at Luffy's original bounty, and then Zoro's original bounty, and then Sanji's original bounty, we see that Sanji's is higher than Zoro's and Zoro's is higher than Luffy's. Now this exact pattern continues throughout the entirety of the story thus far, as you can see right here. I think Oda will actually break this pattern this arc though. And what I mean by that is because of Whole Cake Island, Zoro and Sanji are both on their third bounty. So unless Sanji has a higher bounty than Zoro after this, which wouldn't make any sense, his now fourth bounty would have to be equal to or less than Zoro's fourth bounty, breaking the pattern. On top of that, Luffy's fourth bounty was only 400 million and his fifth bounty was only 500 million. I think that would be unreasonable for their bounties to remain close to those numbers, considering they both defeated opponents worth more than 1.3 billion berries. What would make more sense in my opinion is both of their bounties surpassing Luffy's sixth bounty of 1.5 billion berries. It would put them in a far more correct range considering their feats. In my opinion, Zoro had much better feats in Wano that I think could justify him having a few several hundred million berries between him and Sanji, but I can also see Oda keeping them 10 million berries apart, thus the large range. And with that being said, if you add 10 million berries to 1.99 billion, you get 2 billion berries, which is what I think Zoro's bounty should be. Just going through, he scarred Kaido, he defeated King, he blocked a combined attack from 2 Emperors, he awakened Conqueror's Haki, and then started using Conqueror's coding. Zoro's feats this arc have been crazy. Base Luffy with Conqueror's Haki was able to fight 1v1 with Hybrid Kaido, and I see no reason as to why Zoro couldn't do the exact same thing. Adding to that, Zoro's scarring of Kaido is obviously an indication that Zoro has reached Oden's level. And given the fact that Oden could fight Kaido 1v1, I'd say it's fairly concrete that Zoro could do so as well. Wrapping things up, his bounty should be larger than 1.5 billion obviously, and considering that, in my opinion at least, he did better against King than Luffy did against Katakuri, I think his amount should be quite a bit higher. 2 billion is a nice number that just fits. Moving on, I already mentioned them, but Law and Kid. Now, I put these two together because I feel like they're going to have the same bounty. When Law and Luffy fought Dofi, they were both accredited with the defeat and had equal bounties afterwards, thus I think it would be fair to say that the same thing will happen to Law and Kid. That aside, I think each of them should have a bounty of 2.5 billion. Higher than Zoro's bounty by a significant amount, but still substantially lower than a regular Yonko's bounty. They also kind of beat Big Mom via ring out, so they definitely aren't on the same level as Luffy, although I think they are rather comparable to Zoro. That being said, Luffy defeated Kaido via a ring out as well, although unlike Big Mom, we are unsure if Kaido was still conscious when he was sent flying below Onigashima. Luffy was also performing better against Kaido than they were against Big Mom, for the most part at least. Long story short, I don't think that Luffy is actually stronger than Kaido. Although definitely exhausted prior to the final clash, Kaido seemed to be in better overall shape than Luffy, and he likely could have just dodged that attack if he had wanted to. Thus, it's hard for me to say that Luffy should have a bounty higher than Kaido. At the same time, he should definitely have a bounty of at least 4 billion berries considering his crew size, territory, and feats. He is a full-fledged emperor at this point, and his bounty should reflect that. On top of that, his devil fruit has awakened, and given its importance in the eyes of the world government, his bounty should also reflect that. So I could see it being as high as 5 billion berries. I'll choose the middle ground though, of 4.5 billion berries. My reasoning being A, it's right in between the two amounts, and B, it is triple his previous bounty. Oda has tripled Luffy's bounty on multiple occasions, typically occasions that showcase a large growth in strength, which this would be such an occasion, seeing as Luffy's growth in strength compared to the beginning of Wano to now has been possibly the largest we've seen since the time skip. And seeing as how this just works out so nicely, I feel really good about settling here. Now, given all that, it should be no surprise that I think Luffy will be one of the emperors. As for the other person I think will be an emperor, I have been convinced that it may very well be Buggy. While I'd love it to be Kid, both him and Law lack the crew numbers and territory to really be declared emperors. The only pirate we know of that has a large enough crew of reputable combatants is Buggy, and given his operation, it's very possible that he has a lot of territory to match that. His career history prior to being a solo pirate is also a pedigree that would make sense for an actual emperor. The only reason I dislike the idea is because I feel like this does cheapen the title of emperor. Buggy is just so weak. Like, Luffy and Blackbeard had to defeat Katakuri and Marco respectively to even be considered for such a title / given such a title. I also find it hard to believe that the world government doesn't know that he's weak. They know what his previous bounty was, and he's never shown any impressive feat, even at Marineford. That said, it may just be them using Buggy to keep up the illusion of the balance of powers still being, well, balanced, I guess. In which case, that makes sense. So it's not something I hate too much. I just don't necessarily like the cheapening of the title of Emperor. And with that, I am finished. Thank you to anyone who listened to this point. Make sure to leave a like and comment what your predictions and thoughts are. Subscribe to the channel, and I will see you next time. Spoiler warning for anyone who hasn't heard about the leaks of 1053, or whenever you're seeing this, if you haven't read 1053. But anyways, it seems to be confirmed that Law, Kid, and Luffy will each have the same bounty. And thus, I'm going to put my predictions for that being here, and it's pretty simple. I think they're going to have a bounty of 3.5 billion berries. This is substantially higher than what I had Law and Kid at prior hand, and substantially lower than what I had Luffy at. But my reasoning for this is pretty simple. Big Mom and Kaido, their bounties together are just a little bit shy of 9 billion, I believe. So Law, Kid, and Luffy, their bounties combined should be a bit higher. If it's 3.5 billion, their bounties will be 10.5 billion, which is higher. And yeah, that just feels kind of right. As I said before, I don't think Luffy is as strong as Kaido, and I don't know if he could actually defeat any of the other Yonko in a 1v1 right now. I do think he'd be close, but I don't know if he could actually pull it off. And so 3.5 billion in comparison to their bounties, except the Blackbeard, obviously, I do feel like it is more representative of his actual abilities. However, I do feel like it fails to include the threat he poses as someone who just awakened his devil fruit, specifically his devil fruit being so special and all. And so that's where I feel like it fails. For Kid and Law, honestly, I feel like they're kind of being hard carried here because I don't think they're worth 3.5 billion. They lack territory. They lack crews of any notable size, really. Especially Law. And I don't think they're really on the level of a Yonko without territory either, It's like they they defeated Big Mom via ring out. They didn't even actually knock her unconscious or anything like that, and that was a 2v1. But, yeah, 3.5 billion for each. Those are my thoughts. See ya.